Welcome to the first episode of Momcozy Village, Together We Grow podcast. On this show, I'll be joined by special guests for lighthearted and fun chats about their motherhood journey. You'll also hear a sprinkling of expert tips and inspiring stories from the Momcozy Village. This is your host, Lalaina Rabary, and today I'm so excited to be chatting with Amy VanHaren. Amy is a seasoned entrepreneur, brand builder, and creative. She's the current founder and CEO of Pumpspotting, an app that seeks to increase breastfeeding confidence and improve maternal health outcomes, one feed at a time. Amy is a mom of two, and as you can imagine, juggles a lot in her day-to-day. So who better to talk us through the trials and tribulations of creating and growing a village of support around you? Amy, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for being our first ever guest.
Woo! Oh, I'm so honored, so humbled. Thank you so much for having me come by to your village.
Always, always. You're such a good friend of Momcozy, a part of our village. How are you doing today?
I'm great. You know, it's Monday morning. We're warming up. We're juggling over here. My kids were supposed to go to surf camp, and there's thunder and lightning. And so, you know, as moms will, we've rejiggered our day. And so we're shifting and great over here.
I'm always amazed by, and we'll get into this in the show, but you are the queen of the pivot. You can just pivot on a dime. Have you always been like this? Like, did motherhood bring this out in you?
I think that I've always been someone that is, you can point me in any direction. You can kind of wind me up and put me wherever I need to go, and I can find excitement towards it. So maybe I just have always been conditioned to be a little agile, but yes, motherhood, every day is a new normal.
You're right.
So I don't know how you can not pivot, unless maybe your experience is very different, which I would love to hear about, but I feel like it's just a necessity.
It absolutely is. And no, I think it's pivoting in different ways, but I admire you so much in your entrepreneurship journey and just as cool as a cucumber in the face of a lot of uncertainty sometimes, which we'll get into. So our topic today is finding your village, the topic of a village. Tell me a little bit about what village looks like for you.
I don't think that I could exist without village. It feels like such a central question to everything. I think, you know, I have many sub-villages. I have my villages of mothers who are in this phase of life with me and getting through. I have my team and my entrepreneurship village that get me through building a business and all the things. And then I think I just have a life village, because people and relationships have always been so important to me. I think I've put myself in a lot of scenarios where I've curated and mindfully cultivated relationships and people. And so I think for me, it depends on the moment or the pivot or the day, which village I'm leaning into, whether it's the family and friends and life village or the mothers and the motherhood village or the mentors and the entrepreneurship village. But all of them sustain me. All of them are vital.
And I liked what you said. You curated and cultivated a village, because so often I think we think that it should come naturally. And I think that was my biggest, I'm not going to call it a mistake. It was the biggest learning when I became a mother. I just expected the village would magically be there. And while we do have our wonderful village of our families and friends, sometimes as you transition into motherhood, people don't really know who you are anymore and how you're changing. And so I really like that you touch on cultivating your village. Do you see it coming naturally, or like, you know, have you always felt that way, that you need to cultivate your village, or was that a learning that you've had along the way?
I think that I learned the importance of the right type of village around me. That, you know, everybody has different energy, or they have different perspectives, and they have, you know, different mindsets. And I think motherhood in particular is one of those time periods where it was really important for me to feel seen, to be able to be vulnerable in where I was and just what I was feeling, and to be around people who let me be my authentic self, brought something that was very common to the experience or the period of life or what we were going through, that were hype women or helping support when it got hard.
We need the hype women out there.
Yeah, you need all the hype women in motherhood and business and all those things. And so I think I organically, at different phases of motherhood and in life, have met different types of people in the circle, depending on the kid's age or what we were going through, all of those things. And then I think the ones that I was drawn to or felt there was a connection or felt that there was some value for both of us in the relationship and something wonderful that I got from it, I just made a very pointed effort to put the time in to nurture that relationship, phone calls or texts or helping or reaching out. And because it's hard and you do have to prioritize the time for those relationships. And so when I say cultivated and curated, it was organic in the people I met and then mindful in the investment on my end to really make sure that I kept those people that brought me such joy and wonderful things around me.
Oh, I love that you said that. I spoke with a friend once and he said, friends are kind of like piggy banks. You got to put in the coins to take out what you need. You can't just pull. You do have to make an investment into the people that you connect with and that care for you and that you want to build a relationship with. So I love that. So Amy, what was the expectation you had about your village before you became a mom and what was the reality after?
I think that my expectation was that it would look much the same. I had so many amazing people around me and so many good friends and different ages, different women at different lifestyles, and I still do. But I think I didn't realize how much I would need a village of people who also had smelly milk all over them.
All over their bodies.
All over them. Or who really understood the level of sleep exhaustion here and there. And it's not to say that my village, I still had those who didn't have kids and what have you, but afterwards, I really gravitated towards people who are in a very similar phase in some ways of motherhood, like really in the nearness of newborns and infant, because I just needed people who innately got it.
Yes.
Who I didn't have to try and
explain.
Yes, like where I was or what I was feeling and all of that stuff. And so I think that I kept my village of amazing people, but I also really had to go to the mothers groups to just sit there among other newborns. And I had to go to the park and strike up conversations with other moms who had babies in strollers because I needed to start from a common ground more than I had expected in finding the village after and postpartum.
It's a really good way to explain it is starting from a common ground, because the level of energy it can take to, which you do not have at the moment, to help people understand where you're at, that can be a lot, especially as a new mom. So it's really important I love that, start at a common ground.
Yeah, and you want someone who just steps in and holds your baby or just starts washing the dishes.
Yes.
There are people who, and this isn't even necessarily relating to being a mom or being there, but there are just certain people who have an instinct for what you need when you're in the fog of postpartum and in those early days of pregnancy. And sometimes they're doulas, sometimes they're, lactation consultants. They're not always, sometimes they're people who are paid to do it, but I didn't appreciate the value of people who just knew how to be around you, to be taking the weight off and supporting and nourishing. And so I think my village shifted to find some people who kind of lived in that space of noticing the weight and wanting to just effortlessly step in and help reduce it in that such an important and vulnerable time period.
And there's more conversation about that. I think it's more, I feel like a parent, maybe on my social media algorithm, about how as a person, people should just step in and help mom.
Yeah.
And mom also needs a lot of support as well. And I had a baby in 2022. So that was just 2 years ago. But I feel like it's even progressed since then, these conversations of the much needed support and the lack of support that mothers have in postpartum, especially.
Yeah, because we're not surrounded by the women in a village we used to. You used to have your grandmother, your aunt, or there were people around who had been through the experience and sort of handed off that knowledge and what have you. And I think that we just live in a world that's different. My family, I don't live in the same state as my sister, my mom, my aunts, my uncles. We live away. And so even though the love and the support is there physically, the proximity of it isn't nearby. And so the midwives, the doulas, the lactation consultants, just the supportive folks who understand this. And I needed them. Because I didn't just have a natural village of maternal support around me. And so I had to find it and build it. And I am so fortunate that I was able to find a few people who really just transformed everything. And so that's why the work we all do is so important, to build that connection and reduce the distance.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So you are the founder and CEO of Pumpspotting, and you founded in 2016. What was the intention for Pumpspotting when it started?
Yeah, to feel less alone.
Yeah, really, about a village.
I mean, speaking of village,
right.
This is truly the genesis of where Pumpspotting started. I was in a phase in my life. I had my second child. I was trying to keep this tiny human alive and fed, and I was really struggling. I was super overwhelmed. I was always isolated. I was always leaving the room. I was always leaving the office to feed. I was stuck under a baby, and it was like nursing and pumping and nursing and pumping and thinking about it all the time. And it felt so isolating to me at the time. And the one thing that always made me feel better was other women, other mothers. I'd receive a text from my sister who would check in or say, have you tried this? Or I'd be sitting in a coffee shop and someone would be breastfeeding near me and I would see it in real life and I'd be able to ask, how's it going for you? Or, hey, you're doing a great job. Or there was this connection. And because my background was in community building through digital formats, I was in marketing and I was, I worked for Patagonia and Amy's Kitchen and people who did a really beautiful job of curating like-minded community through digital formats. And so one day I was sitting on a very sticky, dirty bathroom floor in the San Francisco airport.
I know.
You've been there.
You feel me. Yes.
And I was about to board a red eye and I was pumping and I was sweating and stressed and crying. And I heard all the women outside the bathroom wanting to get in. And I just was like at my wit's end. And in that moment, in my hand was my phone. And I thought, what if we could use this device to build something that unites women and mothers in this phase of life so that they felt that connection, that being seen, that being nourished. And from that day forward, the idea took hold and one thing led to another. And here we are all these years later running this community support company that really helps to nourish moms on their phones, in person, in workplaces. And it's been a journey.
That's remarkable. I just got a picture. We often revolutionize the world when we're at our wits' end, don't we?
Yes. I mean, raw need.
Raw need, some self-preservation. What has been the result that you've been so surprised with, or maybe not surprised with, as you look at Pumpspotting now? It's 2024. What did you imagine it would take you here, this journey?
No. I mean, I don't come from a maternal health background. So I think for me, I never imagined that my own personal journey to feed would ignite this quest for me of really uniting other women in this phase. But it has been so rewarding and so wonderful, because I think one of the things that I've really come to learn is just that so much of motherhood is so unique and yet so universal.
Yes.
That we're all, you feel so unique in the moment, and every journey is different for everyone. But the beauty of it is that there are just millions of women all over the world who are going through the same actions, the same emotions, the same love, the same sadness, the bittersweet, the joy, all those things and what have you. And so I think for me, being able to build community in this space and spend so much time getting to know so many women and mothers, and the conversations in person and online and what have you, it's really shaped for me the power in that connection and what can happen when we come together and when we're there at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
When everyone else is, up feeding and,
Up feeding.
Yes. And how one word of advice or one kind word can just change the trajectory of your self-doubt or your feelings or what have you. And I think that the technology has shifted the world, and in some ways it's amazing how much more the conversation around breastfeeding and postpartum and all these things is front and center. But the essence of, what we really set out to do and what I've been most proud to do in terms of being able to be there for moms and unite them and just provide this safe space to be to be fed
Yeah.
while you're feeding and what have you, has really been there. And so I think as much as things I've learned, it's more that things I felt. I feel very fortunate to have been on this journey with so many women.
When you said, as I was thinking about my own breastfeeding journey, late nights, yeah, it's something that brought me a lot of peace was that, around the world late at night, there are mothers up with me, just doing our best, feeding our babies and watching Netflix or trying to be very quiet and not move just to make sure transferring the baby to the crib. So it is absolutely universal. It's almost like it feels like a sacred path that you walk on that it couldn't be so wonderful. You don't know how wonderful it is until you walk the path.
Yeah. And then after you've walked it, the power of giving back. Once you've been there, and as you were saying that, I used to imagine almost like a tiny little light bulbs popping up all over the world in the houses of the women that were up feeding. And then afterwards, you sort of carry that light with you. And I think one of the most powerful things that we see on Pumpspotting and that I've experienced is, sometimes when you are in the thick of it, or you're in your hardest day, and we always say don't quit on your hardest day, and you're just really feeling it. If what you do is give back or share something to another mom, or, hey, you can do this even when it's really hard for you, that exchange of support and knowledge in that moment it's really almost like life-giving to you, even as hard as things are. And so, once you've walked through it and you're sort of carrying that badge, you've carried your pump bag, you've done all the things, you've sort of earned the badges of what it is, then there is this beauty in being able to stand next to all the other women who are in their houses at 3 a.m. and going through it.
Yeah, we're all standing together. Your app, it's remarkable in the way that, and I've been on it, it helps a lot. And I can see where it helps with breastfeeding continuation, which also often people really just drop off after 3 months. It's really challenging. Feeding isn't easy. I always say it's natural, but it's not easy at all. And where do you think the success is? How are you able to do that? How are you able to help people continue their breastfeeding journey in like a non-judgmental way, which I've seen it. No one is mean on this. And sometimes when you think of the internet, and especially when it comes to infant feeding, you think of people being so mean, but everyone is very uplifting and kind. And how does it really support people? How is this village supporting them to continue even when it's tough?
It's a great question. And I think one of the things I'm most proud of that we've done with Pumpspotting almost in 10 years and tens of thousands of parents on the app, I have only ever had to remove one post that was negative toward another mom. And when you think about the world of social media and all those things, I feel very proud about that. And we've spent a lot of time thinking about how is it that this space was built to really be there in those moments, to overcome the self-doubt questions and the insecurities and all those thoughts and worries and things that you go through. And those doubts can be that moment of difference between, can I keep doing this? That impacts your milk supply, it impacts your stress level. It becomes cyclical of some of those things. And so if you can be there in a safe and supportive way to answer a question or share a bit of information or connect, say, hey, someone, I see you, you're doing a great job. It's hard, but you're getting through, or you are a wonderful parent for your baby, just as you are. And just as what you're doing, it can plant a different kind of seed. And I think it can overcome those moments of difficulty. And that helps to keep people, whatever their feeding journey may be, to really help keep them focused on the goal and the progress and the positivity in it instead of the overwhelm and the doubt.
We're going to take a second now to hear a story from one of the moms in our Momcozy community. This week, Jane will tell us how her village helped her as a mom.
I think everyone helping out around here just really helps my sanity, but having everyone here to help you out really makes a difference. I know that there are some others who really don't have a village and some family that lives farther away than others. It's made another big difference with the postpartum journey as well. I know a lot of people have postpartum depression, and luckily I didn't have to go through that. I don't think I had any signs of depression because of my village that I had. I had so many people that were offering to help out, come take off my hands for a day, give me a break, and it was just really amazing to see everybody come together and help me out during that time.
So I want to talk about Barb the Breast Express
Yes.
because you did not just keep this online. You have a 36-foot schoolie that is traveling across the country right now that is actually creating villages and cultivating them, cities coast to coast. Tell us, who is Barb?
Yeah. Barb is probably the most important member of the Pumpspotting team, and
She
frankly,
is.
my family, because my children love her as well. And she's actually one of us. Yeah. So Barb the Breast Express came about because after we had started building Pumpspotting, we felt like if we were really going to create something that nurtured moms, we needed to meet as many of them as possible. We really needed to meet women in person and connect that way. And so we had Lindsay, my partner who builds the Pumpspotting app, and I had a wild idea. What if we turned, a space into a roving tiny home, a nursing and pumping suite where you could be fed in the kitchen and you could sit down next to other women and we would hold your baby and connect you to lactation consultants and get your hands on pumps and things you usually don't. And what if we just created this roving, nourishing experience the same way we wanted the app to feel that way? What if it was like that in person? And so in 2018, I built the first iteration of Barb, and I moved on board for 5 months.
You lived.
I lived on Barb.
You lived on Barb for 5 months. Mm-hmm. That is not a short amount of time.
And I had 2 little children.
Oh,
so my
goodness.
husband was the best to be supportive. And we went town by town, feed by feed, rallying the maternal health communities, showing up for moms and bringing them together. And it was both the most powerful thing I had ever done and the absolute hardest, because leaving my own children and taking this leap of faith toward a vision and something I was building meant sacrifice in some ways for my own kiddos. And I remember the day I said goodbye to them to actually get on the bus. And I just must have sobbed for a good length of time. But shortly after that, I was talking to my daughter, and I remember her being on the phone, and she said, "Oh, Mom, a car just drove by and it's Pumpspotting color." Oh. It was teal. And so my kids were so baked into it that it became much better. But really what Barb is a gathering place. She's a beacon of light, and she's covered in boobs, and she's got all our favorite brands and partners and friends on board. And we are traveling across the country because we really believe more than ever it's time to be back out there, connecting moms, bringing these experiences, bringing the support, elevating the conversation, and shining a light on the beautiful maternal health work that's being done in every community.
I love that. I think what you talked about, following the vision, yet it being the hardest thing that you've ever done. How did you, because there may be moms out there that they have a dream, they have a vision, they may be very career oriented, and they feel stuck. They feel like, is this even possible that I can accomplish my dreams, yet I have small children? What would you say to them?
I think that if you have a vision and you have something in your mind or in your heart about a way that you can make the world better, or something that you want to do and you're feeling it, I'm so intuitive, in your gut or in your being, I think you have to honor that. And I don't think it has to be all or nothing. You don't have to overnight quit your job, learn how to run a tech company, all those things.
Live on a bus for 5 months.
Move onto a bus for 5 months. You can if you want to, but so much of that is just done the same way breastfeeding is, feed by feed, day by day, one thing at a time. And I think just get curious about what that calling is, what that vision is, and, talk to people, find people to support you, explore that, because there is so much good that comes out of that piece. And I do not have the answer. Work-life balance is a myth, I think.
Such a myth. Thank you for
none.
Saying that.
Good luck.
There is none. I can't find it. I'm still looking.
No, I heard someone call it work-life harmony.
Oh.
And I feel like that's such a better term.
Yeah.
Is that it's never going to be balanced or equal. And so how do you just... And so for me, I try and be present with my kids when I'm here. I try and sit on the floor with them and really be with them when I have and, you know, when I have to work, I'll be honest about that. I'll say, look, I'm going to work late, or I've got something that's on my mind that has me really consumed. And I know I'm not doing a great job of being present with you, but I love you and this won't last. And you know, what have you. And so I think that you just have to go for it. You have to find your bus, whatever that is for you, and just put it out there. And I think bring your kids and your family along, however messy it is, because they will learn from that. They will be part of that. You will figure it out together the same way you figure out nursing and pumping together. And there is no perfection, but there is a lot of beauty in just being in it as a family and finding your way.
Yes. You talked about your husband being such a supportive partner. Was that a easy conversation to say, hey, honey, I'm going to be gone on this bus for 5 months? How do you even have that conversation? He's so wonderful. That's so sweet. And as we talk about a village, that's really inspiring, because the people who know you and are closest to you and know your heart and are in the village know your desires, and they know it when you have something that you just want to go for, and they should support you along that path, however that looks.
Yeah, they should. And one of the things, you know, if you're thinking, I think for everyone, one of the best pieces of advice I got is to build a personal advisory board.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. And you can think about it, whether it's business or motherhood or what have you. But the idea is, who are 3 people that you proactively call on to say, look, you're not here to judge me. You're not here to make financial decisions. You're not here to do all these things. But I need you to sort of be on call, to be a witness, to be present to my life when it's hard, when I need to be vulnerable, when I'm working through something. And so one is my brother. One is another woman who owns a company that I admire. One is someone that I worked with. And I just have them on phone a friend speed dial. And we've built this beautiful relationship where we share insights and advice, and I go back to them. And so it's a different kind of village, like a more tightly curated village. And that has been super helpful in the ups and downs and challenges of the business, but also motherhood is really often baked into that, where it's like, I'm questioning whether I'm doing this right.
I'm glad you do that, because it's so easy to try to be so stoic and try to go at it by yourself. And where's the detriment in that, do you think?
I am what you see is what you get. I sort of wear my emotions, all the things on my sleeve. And so I've always had such a hard time with that, because it feels really unnatural for me to not say, today is hard to human, or the business is hard today, or I haven't slept in 2 weeks because I've been up feeding and I'm not at my best. And so to live in a culture and a world where sometimes it's built to hide that or to not really embrace that, for me, that's always felt even more like a juxtaposition, you know, around that. I think we have to be able to be honest about how it's hard to help one another and to move forward. And so I just have to show up as I am. And then you just find the village who accepts that. I think that's the most important thing. If someone doesn't allow you to show up as you need to, how helpful is it to have them around you? Those are sometimes I've made changes to be supportive that way.
Yeah, that's wonderful that you noted that. You certainly, as you have transitions in your life, new chapters in your life, there is that analysis, and it's not easy, but you definitely have to take analysis in the people around you. And is this friendship bringing life to my life? Can I be my authentic self around this individual? Are they seeing me as I am right now? And I'm not promoting just cut everybody out of your life. That's not, people are going to hear this and they're going to be cut up. No. It sometimes relationships can look different as we shift and grow as well, right?
Absolutely. And I think that's never more true than in motherhood for us. I took a hypnobirthing class when I was pregnant, and there were 5 couples in there and the kids, and we called ourselves all the hypno babies. And so for after that, we spent about a year after that, and we would all get together and because they were all born within a few weeks, and we would see them grow and what have you. But we talked about pregnancy, we talked about breastfeeding, we talked about those early things, and they were wonderful. And they're such important people in my life. But as my kids started to age and they went to an outdoor school, and then we met parents at the outdoor school who were kind of in a similar phase with toddlers or learning or, you know, seeing the world. And then we started to build women friendships around those mothers and things. And it doesn't lessen the power of any of the villages or the relationships that carry you through.
Yes.
They live in you. They are with you. You still talk to them. You're fond of them, but they do grow and adapt as your kids change, as you change as a mother and a woman and a parent. And I think that's important that we allow that.
Yeah. So this has been a wonderful conversation. What would you like our audience to know about? Do you have anything coming up? Any shameless plugs that you'd like to share?
Well, we are still on tour.
Yeah.
We would love for you to come out and meet Barb the Breast Express. She's ready and waiting for you. You can go to our website at pumpspotting.com or follow us at Pumpspotting to see all the cities. We're going to be in Austin, Texas next, but all the places we're going to be. Would love for you to be part of the Pumpspotting community on the app. You can download it in any place you get your apps, all the app stores. And just, I love interacting. So my only shameless plug is reach out to us, connect with us, follow us, find us. We're here for you.
They truly are. They truly are here for you. Amy, as a busy mom, do you have any quick relaxation exercises or rituals that you would like to share with our audience today that have brought you some inner peace?
Yeah. I have one that I like to do. It's kind of a two-parter. Okay. So the first, and I think it's called havening. I had a coach named Christopher Carter who taught me this, but if you take your two hands and you run like from your inner elbow all the way out to your fingertips. So you just run sort of wrist to wrist. You're running your fingers like you're feathering your fingers over. And the more you do it, the more it helps your nervous system. And so I will do it on phone calls or before, if my kids are starting to stress me out at bedtime, you just stand there and you just feather your palms together. You just run your hands like this. And so it really does make me feel so much better. So I do that. And then the other thing that I do is I sometimes, when things are rough, I'll just put my hands on my heart and I close my eyes for a minute and I take a few really big, deep breaths and I imagine a blue sky and I just say, I am the sky and the weather moves through me. I am the sky and the weather moves through me. And I just imagine the clouds and everything passing through that blue sky and I just breathe. And for whatever reason, that to me helps me center myself when things feel overwhelming.
Oh, I love that. I'm going to do it all the time. Thank you so much, Amy, for joining me on the show today. And thank you for listening to Momcozy Village, Together We Grow. We hope you'll join us next time, and bye for now.